I remember one of the section commanders was in a doorway and he took a round through the chest. So he's got a sucking chest wound. He's taken a 7.62 through the chest. When we were getting smashed to bits, we actually run out of ammunition that contact. And the only thing that got us out of that was the Apache gunship overhead, which was basically giving us firing cover for us to move back through a kilometre of irrigation ditches to get back to FOB Ink and get out of the mess with the Kazivac.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Frontline with myself, Ryan Forrest, and former Special Reconnaissance Regiment, UK Special Forces, James Williams, formerly a Royal Marine as well. Thanks for stopping by again, James. How are you doing?
All good, mate. All good, you?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. I enjoyed our conversation the other day about effectively joining runs and stuff in the Marines. They don't happen now.
Brought back some good memories.
Memories. And bad ones.
Do you know what? That's the disclaimer, isn't it? They do not happen anymore. All right.
Yeah, don't worry about it. This is but a myth now. Hey, so we've pre-deployment training. You're just getting ready to effectively deploy with 40 Commando on Herrick 7. Is that right?
Herrick 7. So somewhere around. So if I passed out of training March 2007, I've gone off. I've passed out of training February, March 2007. I've gone off. I've done a couple of months of Herrick 5, come back. And then I'm looking to do the summer pre-deployment training of 2007 for deployment to Afghanistan, September, October 2008. Sorry, no, September, October 2007.
So it was commando training, Herrick, PDT. Okay, so did you get any leave or anything? Did you?
I got 4 weeks leave off the back of 4-2 just to go home. That was my first actual real break from the beginning of commando training. You imagine if you look at those timings, look at those timings there. You've got join CTC 19th of June 2006. Yeah, you know what the pace is like in CTC.
Yeah,
it's 9 months relentless if you're lucky, if you get it done in that 32 weeks. Out of CTC, March 2007, February 2007, straight into Afghan, deployed out in Afghan for a couple of months with 4-2 Commando as a BCR. Come back from that, I get my first bit of leave, 4 weeks or so, before I then turn to a 40 Commando ready to do pre-deployment training through the summer of 2007, ready to deploy on Herrick 7, Afghanistan, to go to Sangin Valley FOB Ink for around September, October 2007.
How are you feeling getting on that plane again, going back into the country that you've effectively just came back from as a new lad?
Mate, I'm still.
You're still processing stuff at that time.
No. I'm still in nod mode. I'm still in recruit mode, mate. I haven't had any time to. I've had 4 weeks leave. I haven't had time to sit down. I haven't had time to contemplate. I haven't had time to rest on my laurels and maybe get into that mode that there are a lot of them that young Marines get into where they just want that easy draft. I'm still, as I said, pedal to the floor, straight on the gas, still at Mach 10, and I'm still, up at 40,000 feet as a schmoolie up in the clouds, mate. I'm just cracking on with it. I'm just rolling with the punches like I did at CTC.
Were you briefed up on, is this even something that happens, the differences of the potential tour that you're about to do compared to what you've done? Is that a conversation you remember having, or do you remember thinking this is going to be different because of where you are in Afghan?
I remember with Alpha Company 40 Commando, I remember us being told we are going to FOB Incoming, also known as FOB Incoming, given that name because of the sheer amount of incoming attacks that it took. It was in a hot area. The whole of the Sangin Valley is hot. Sangin Valley is quite an active area, as people know. But yeah, FOB Incoming particularly was a small FOB. It basically was a former Taliban market that we took over. Not we took over, but the British military had taken over and handed over through the different tours. Most of the lads slept on camp cots, mosquito nets in Hesco Bastion bays as a little bit of protection. No overhead protection whatsoever.
Wow.
I was lucky enough to get essentially like a small mud hut, which would have been maybe a small shop selling, I don't know, chickens or whatever, whatever it was selling.
So that's where you got your head down.
Yeah, camp cot. I remember making my own. I made my own chimney to keep warm. I made my own furniture out of the leftover wooden pallets from the ammo crates. I made my own chair. I made my own table. I mean, looking back on it, it was raw and it was fun. It was fun.
So I want to get straight into it because this is the bit that I've been excited to hear your story from. From getting off that plane, getting yourself literally into, where you're going to be staying, getting your head down. Do you remember the first firefight you got in?
Do you know what? I couldn't tell you the first contact. Ryan, that tour there, according to my sergeant, the sergeant of my troop, he kept a diary.
Mm-hmm.
And on that tour there, according to him, there was somewhere in the region of around 80 to 100 contacts. One period of contacts went on for 21 days, 3 weeks, every day in contact.
Was this pretty much? Did this start happening straight away?
Straight away, mate. Do you know what? You're actually at FOB Ink, you're actually lucky. You come in, you're taken. So the process of going to Afghanistan, obviously you go to Brize Norton, you fly from Brize Norton on the military aircraft into Kandahar.
Mm-hmm.
From Kandahar, you then get dished out to Camp Bastion, and from Camp Bastion, it's a long process. It's quite a laborious transition. Then from Camp Bastion, you then get processed there before you then go to your relevant FOBs that your unit or your troop or your platoon or whatever it is may be taking over. So you imagine you've gone Brize Norton to Kandahar, Kandahar to Bastion, Bastion, then for me into FOB Ink. That move into FOB Ink would have been by CH-47 Chinook, and notoriously the Chinooks had hard time landing at FOB Ink because as soon as they started coming down, Taliban were waiting and they could see, and they just started firing mortars. They love firing a mortar at a Chinook, and as soon as those mortars start landing, that Chinook, I'm out of there, I'm gone.
So they didn't waste no time. They were in and out type thing.
Yeah, we landed successfully. Didn't have to go back to Camp Bastion. Didn't have to hover around in the air whilst the Apache gunship sorted the nuisance out, because every Chinook is accompanied by an Apache gunship
because of the threat.
Yeah, because of the threat. Managed to get into FOB Ink pretty easy, and then it was a case of just handing over with the army regiment at the time. For some reason, I seem to think it was the Anglians. I mean, they looked thrashed, mate. They'd just done a summer tour for FOB Ink, mate. They looked
getting hammered.
Yeah, they looked absolutely thrashed to bits, mate. They really did.
What was that like on morale when you went in there, seeing how they were?
Do you know what? I can recall, if there's never really been times where I've been phased in my life, Royal Marine training. I mean, with the SRR car, I used to cut around walking into Taliban hotels and Taliban markets on my own. I was never really phased. I do remember a slight feeling of a little bit of apprehension, thinking, okay, this is real now. The stakes are higher.
Switch on type thing.
There is, well, even regardless of switching on, whether you switch on or whether you don't, there was an acceptance that, there is a chance here that if that roll of the dice isn't in your favour that day,
you're catching it up.
You're catching it up, and you may end up losing your limbs. You may end up losing your life. This is real. This is happening, mate. That was actually the first time for me in my life I'd actually had that feeling of this is happening. This is happening.
So what did your earlier days on that tour look like?
So basically, it was always a race to see if you could get out the gate in time and go on a patrol. There were two choices. If the weather was permitting, because I told you Taliban are a fair weather fighter, and when the rain's coming down, they just don't like that. You know, they like to be comfortable. But as soon as the sun's out, they're going to have a pop. Okay, they're going to have a go at you. At FOB Ink, it was very much a case of, if you can get out the gate in time so you can get your orders done, you can get out that gate and you can get out on the ground before they decide to start mortaring you, before you hear that alarm go off with that first mortar go up in the air that's heading towards your FOB, then you'd go out on a patrol. Most of the time, you'll be very lucky to get 400 meters away from the FOB before you got into contact. Most of the time, 100 to 200 meters, you got into contact. Furthest we ever got was a kilometer. I mean, we were well far out there. I mean, I felt completely disconnected from the FOB on that contact. I remember that contact in great detail. Actually, it was quite large. We'll come on to that. But if you didn't get out of the FOB because you didn't manage to get your orders done, or you weren't early enough in your patrol timings, and the Taliban decided to start mortaring you, it was a case of just helmets on, body armor on, get in a corner, and hope that you hear that mortar go over your head, because you're going to get mortared all day until that threat is dealt with, either by Apache gunship or by your 105 or by your 50 cal or by your heavy weapons troop guys with their javelins, etc. They're going to deal with that for you, or the Sangers. Again, like I said, it's a reassuring noise when you hear that mortar go over your head. When you hear that, right, I've heard it. That means it's gone over my head. It's for ones you don't hear. If you
How
don't
are some
hear,
of the younger lads feeling in that? Like, because obviously you're 24, 25 at this point. What's it like looking at them? Like, did they deal with it in a bootneck way, or were some of them like scared?
Seriously, this is where bootneck training shines through. Seriously, they're still taking the piss out of each other. They're still having a laugh. They're still dripping. They're still not that bothered. Seriously, it's the character of it.
So you've seen these guys like, cracking on as you'd expect.
Yeah, you know, I don't know. It's like we used to get a post sent to you. And it would come in on the CH-47s. Yeah, come on a Chinook. Your post, your morale, the morale would land. Heartbreaking. The most heartbreaking things that used to happen there would be when you know that your mum, your dad, someone close to you had sent you, I don't know, a tub of Maxi Muscle Cyclone, because you're hanging out. Mate, we was on rations for 7 months. We was on Pusser's rations for 7 months.
Gosh,
Hey, please, not another corned beef hash. Please, not another corned beef hash. I mean, when you're eating those ration packs for 7 months, mate, imagine what that's doing to your insides.
They're not good. They're really not good for you either, are they?
It's just a pack of energy.
Yeah, just quick sugars get in.
Yeah,
I mean, they do the job. Don't get me wrong, but 7 months, that's grim.
Yeah, 7 months. So, you know, I mean, nutrition wasn't great there. So if you know that your mum has sent you, or your dad sent you, or someone close to you has sent you a tub of Maxi Muscle Cyclone, and you've been waiting for that for that they sent that a month ago, and you know it's gone through the process of from Bryce to Kandahar to Bastion. Now it's finally loaded onto the Chinook, and here comes the morale ship. And then the Taliban decide to mortar it, and you watch that Chinook just
that must
come down,
break. Yeah,
that's the most broken you'll be.
I never even thought about that. Actually, yeah, that's and you know that's the morale ship. Yeah, it's like, oh, this is
because
Helo's got everything
in a FOB like that your post, your letter, your I don't know, your protein shake, your bag of Haribo, your something that someone sent you to keep your spirits up. It's just like the Taliban have gone, not today. Fired a couple of mortars, fired an SPG, and that
so you know, when you're out on patrol, were you doing fighting patrols, or was this basically like a dominance over the area? You need to show force type thing.
Dominance, show of force, clearance. mate, do you know what the sad thing is? It's never about gaining ground. I mean, it's never about gaining ground. Every single time you return back to that FOB, it's about hearts and minds trying to interact with the very few people that are living in the area. FOB Ink was like a ghost town. Most people had moved away. It was like, they'd moved away because of the fighting. There was the odd farmer here and there who decided to stay and try and do something with the land. There was the hearts and minds piece. Go out there, try and interact with them, try and, gain their support. Try and see what you can do for them. If you can give them some water, some food, if you can get them some electricity. I mean, it's medieval. The Sangin Valley is 300-400 years behind us.
Wow.
It really is. That was that's an official assessment as well. It's 300-400 years behind us.
That's outrageous as well, isn't it, when you think about it?
Yeah.
So really are living to our standards primitively, and a primitive mindset will obviously come with that as well. I don't mean that in a derogative way. That's how people are going to live if the environment is such, Talk to me about, do you recall like one of the first, or if not the first times you're out on patrol, you're obviously doing your thing, I don't know how to phrase this, I don't know if it's offensive or not.
No, go for it, mate.
People catch it up, don't they?
People do catch up, yeah.
Do you remember anything of and having to deal with that as you've been trained in the Marines? Like, right, okay, is a CASEVAC drill or anything like that kind of come to mind?
Well, do you know what? Typical bootneck fashion, always looking on the. There isn't a bright side to it, but you just. I tell you what. I'll tell you the story with a very large contact, huge contact. It was the one where we made it about 1 kilometre out of the base. So there's 1 kilometre between us and FOB Ink. That particular contact there, so many details I remember. So it really was a contact that stood out. But I remember one of the section commanders was in a doorway and he took a round through the chest. So he's got a sucking chest wound. He's taken a 7.62 through the chest. He survived it. But obviously, you've had to tend to him. I didn't tend to him. I was up further ahead behind a bun line with the troop sergeant when we were getting smashed to bits. We actually ran out of ammunition, that contact. I can't remember running out of ammunition, but we did run out of ammunition. And the only thing that got us out of that was the Apache gunship overhead, which was basically giving us firing cover for us to move back through 1 kilometre of irrigation ditches to get back to FOB Ink and get out of the mess with a CASEVAC. That section commander, you imagine he's on a stretcher. There's 4 men carrying him. And did you ever come across the name game in the Corps? Do you remember the name game? I don't know, where you're basically walking through the galley. You've got your food. Someone goes, Ryan, and you turn around and everyone just goes,
yeah.
Name game,
I swear to God, right? I'm going to send this to my Bezzy Oppo. He's still serving. I was the best at that. That was my thing.
Game. It's a stupid game, isn't it?
I still do it now. I still do it now to people. I do it to people every day. Every day of my life, I'll get someone who's not even in the Corps.
It's such a bootneck thing, isn't it?
It's a stupid thing, but it's hoofing. It is. You're getting bosses and everything, aren't you? Boss.
Yeah, boss. And the boss turns around and he's looking. He's like, "Who said that?" I mean, it's really simple. I mean, I don't know if it's a testament to the simplicity of the humour of a bootneck
and how much funny you're going to get out of it.
But might as well just sit a bootneck down with one of those children's toys, put this square in this square, triangle.
Simple creatures. I mean, the US Marines get called crayon eaters for a very similar reason.
Well, mate, so you imagine there's 4 lads carrying this CASEVAC there on a stretcher. The guy's got a sucking chest wound, okay? He can't fucking breathe. And lads will still play the name game on one of those 4 lads carrying that.
That's chat as fuck.
Mate, yeah, but come on, Ryan, you're a bootneck, mate. Right, okay.
It's hoofing.
It is jack as fuck, but it's acceptable.
It's acceptable jackness, yeah. So he's hanging out on there for you.
Everyone's running, and he stops, and practically the CASEVAC, the stretcher pretty much falls off, and the guy on it with a sucking chest wound, one of his legs fucking hangs off, and he's nearly slipping off, and they're trying to get him to the chin to get him out of there.
That's just.
But mate, do you know what? It was that humour. It was that
Morale.
kind of approach that bootnicks, mate. They do that shit to get through those situations. And
I've noticed a lot of army lads who used to come on either a draft or a swap draft or something. They didn't. It was like an alien world at first. Like, one, why am I not getting shouted at? Like, off someone one rank above me. Two, why is that stripey or colour stripey in our grots playing PlayStation with us?
Yeah,
like you know what I mean. And three, the crack you have is crazy to anyone, even in the military outside the corps. But after a few months, they're like, oh, I get this. I prefer this lifestyle. I didn't realize how different the wider army is to the corps. I mean, the rank structure really matters in the army, for instance. Like,
it's a segregation, isn't it? So,
like Lance Jacks detail, like not mixing with the lads and stuff. And I was like, I used to get on the beers with a colour stripey, and he used to come up to our grots and play PlayStation and stuff.
Yeah, mate, my sergeant. I mean, I was well into my fizz, and my sergeant would want to train with me because he there's no ego. He's willing to drop that ego to take some advice on training from a Marine.
I took that for granted when I was in. I'll be honest with you, until I did a draft with the army, did a course. I was there for the best part of a year, and I went, man, this is shit. I just didn't like the culture. I didn't. I'll be honest.
Mate, that bootneck humour. I mean, I didn't come across this myself, but I heard stories of like lads would, get hit by a mine and have their legs taken off, and whilst they're getting tended to, they've got no legs, mate. Like, whilst they're getting tended to, the lad who's tended to him says, "Oh well, mate, at least you don't got to worry about leg day now in the gym."
Yeah, I've heard bits like that as well.
And the guy who's had his legs taken off, he's a bootneck.
The lad's like, "Yeah, cheers."
No, he's laughing.
Is he?
Fuck it, I hated leg day anyway.
This is like a morbid kind of reality of the cause, kind of camaraderie. I don't think people will get that.
No,
people won't get that. I don't expect them to be fair.
No. Look, I mean, I don't know. Will people be offended at that? I mean, we're just painting a picture of.
I remember telling stories. Yeah,
it's that uniqueness of the corps, isn't it? But
I wouldn't change it.
It's that approach. It's that mentality, which means when the chips are really down, when you're really in the shit, when you run out of ammunition, and lads have been hurt, that you've still got that humour, that positivity, that you're still going to get out of that situation. You're not breaking down. You're trying to find, even if it doesn't exist, the bright side of it and the positive to it.
So you've lived that. You've seen that in action, both at CTC where it's created and then manifested at unit in Afghan. You've seen that work, and it does work. It does
work. Yeah. It's when you actually step back and you've gone through the whole process and you analyze it, and you actually sit there in awe at that process that the bootnicks in particular, and should I say it really, the army as a whole, the British military as a whole, because we are regarded as having that kind of get on with it humour kind of attitude, aren't we? The British military as a whole. I know the Americans, they actually hold us in high regard for that.
Very high regard, yeah. I mean, when I work with the Yanks once or twice, and they love us. They absolutely love us, and your opinion matters. Like, that's one thing I noticed. They do hold us in high regard. We've been doing it a long time, Britain, haven't we? So it's interesting. I mean, that's obviously a low point. That Kazivac situation, is that the first time you experienced that type of situation, or?
Do you know what, Ryan? The whole there were things that happened out there. Certain contacts, certain situations, which I don't really know what happened afterwards. And this is what I talk with my doctors and my psychiatrists about now. There's quite a few bits that are not there in the memory, or the brain isn't processed, or the brain's forgotten.
Purged them.
Yeah, purged it. I mean, like I said, I couldn't tell you the first time I was in a contact. I remember this particular contact here. I'll talk you through it. It was a large contact. It was an incredibly large contact. It was the Apache gunships afterwards. Actually, we got a bit of feedback from the pilots, and their comments were, "We haven't seen that much carnage in our whole time here." I mean, the fields were on fire. It was like when you look back over your shoulder and you're moving out of that situation, back through those irrigation ditches, the kilometre kind of fire manoeuvre back to base to get out of that. I remember looking over my shoulder and it looked like a scene out of Apocalypse Now. Okay, it looked like Vietnam. It looked like someone had that everything was burning. Fields were on fire. Okay, trees were on fire. I remember on the build up to that, we'd got quite far out. It's very eerie. The atmosphere is incredibly eerie. It's very quiet. You know, everyone who was in the area, although there's not a lot of people, there might have been a farmer here or there, they've just disappeared. You start to get a sense something's going to happen. It doesn't feel right. You have this like sixth sense almost. We come across a young group of Afghans, fighting age males. That's the typical term, fighting age male. You know, that immediately raises suspicion. There's a typical age that these guys, you know, the older guys in the area tend to be your farmers. When you come across a group of half a dozen, 20, 18 to 25-year-olds in the area just hanging around, you know, you start to question why.
Right.
I remember coming around a corner in this kind of like, you imagine it's a lot of farmland separated by irrigation ditches with a dwelling here, there and everywhere, and sometimes maybe 3 or 4 or 5 dwellings, like small, what's the word, is it hamlet? I don't know.
Well, like a few houses, yeah, I
Yeah, a
guess
few
you could
houses,
say that.
yeah.
Like a little settlement type thing.
Yeah, a little settlement of compounds. And I remember walking around a corner, and I remember there was this young fighting age male. I really don't like using those terms because I don't like using those terms that have been allocated to these people. There's a young Afghan male, and he's crouched down. And from my memory, I remember his eyes looked incredibly glazed. Looked like he'd taken something. I don't know, opium. Looked like he was on drugs. Yeah. But one thing I particularly remember, he's crouched down in the typical Afghan squat, and I'm walking past him, and I locked eyes with him. And one thing I specifically remember is I remember the sheer hate he had in his eyes for us as we walked past, and particularly at that moment there, because my eyes are locked with him, the sheer hate he had for me. I could see I could feel it. He despised me. He absolutely loathed me. I also got a sense of him that he was, I mean, this sounds a little bit mumbo jumbo kind of, you know, connection. I don't know, but I'm just describing the scene as I was there.
Yeah.
I also got this sense of him that he knew that that was his last day on this planet. He knew.
Really?
He knew the likelihood was that, you know, this was it for him, and he was going to go through with it. And he was
prepared for this.
He was prepared for this. Yeah.
Wow.
So we're patrolling past. We've questioned these males. I haven't questioned these males. The Afghan has. You know, it's all been done through the head shed, through the troop commander, through the troop sergeant major, through the sergeants. They've dealt with all that. You know, we're the young Marines. We're the fighting cannon fodder. I don't know. And so we're moving away from the area. And I remember it's incredibly quiet. There's no farmers, and for some reason. Again, is it dramatic? This is just my recollection. You've got to understand. This is 2007, so this is 17 years ago, and this mixes up with a hell of a lot of other contacts. I remember it was almost like the clouds got grey. It was almost like the air got thicker. It was like there was a sense that.
Well, it's atmospherics changing, right?
Atmospherics, yeah.
We get taught that. It's a real... Yeah. We taught to believe it to be a real thing in the Corps.
So, you know, this sixth sense, something's going to kick off. Something's going to happen here. And something big's going to happen here. I remember walking across this open bit of land. And all I'm focusing on the bun line, the irrigation ditch, and the set of compounds that are maybe 50 meters in front of me, and I've just got this sheer desire to get to that. I am in the open. This is shit. This is not the place I want to be. Literally, at that moment there, that whip of that round coming over your head when it's breaking the sound barrier. I don't know what it's doing, but it's like a crack of a whip, isn't it? When a round goes over you.
Yeah.
And they're just coming down. It's just relentless. I don't know. PKM, it must be a PKM. It must just be a whole group of
7.62
AK-47.
thing.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, 7.62, you don't want to get hit. I mean, getting hit by a 7.62, that's a bad day.
Blown heads off in it.
Yeah. So then you're just flat out. We're running, getting into position. Lads are diving in compounds. Lads are diving behind whatever bun line's next to them. Lads are diving behind irrigation ditches, which were dry when we went out there, but now become full of water. It was almost as if they'd filled them with water to make us uncomfortable.
Interesting,
I know. I remember thinking that maybe we're not going to jump in them because they wouldn't jump in them. Whereas we're like, when you look back on it, you're like, mate, do you not realise I'm a bootneck? I was born in that.
It's kind of where we belong, right?
Yeah. That brings me comfort. That doesn't distress me. Get me in that water.
Familiar.
Get me in that Ogden. So behind the bun line, and it's kicking off. I mean, rounds in a contact, a typical contact in a Sangin Valley, where those rounds are going and who's killing who and who's dying, it's just carnage. It is carnage. Okay. When you always got asked that question, people go, have you ever killed anyone? How many? The answer I always give is, listen, in a contact, you have no idea how many of your rounds have maybe killed
people.
Yeah, or your 51mm mortar, or your or your, I don't know, your grenade round, or any of that. You don't know. You have no idea. It's chaos.
It's chaos, yeah. And
it's chaos.
You might have the third shot out of 10 shots on that guy type thing. So it's like it's definitely a collective thing, isn't it?
On top of that, you've got Apache gunship above your head, raining off 40mm cannon, Hellfire missiles. You've got 40mm shells falling around you from that Apache gunship. They are literally above you. You've got your support from back at the FOB, 105 shells literally where you're a kilometre out from base. You imagine you're a kilometre out from base. Base is here, you're here, Taliban are here. For them to get that trajectory onto the Taliban after being given that position, those 105 rounds are coming about 9 foot over your head. You can hear them. That's big round.
Crazy.
It's a big round. You've got 81mm. You've got what is it? 80mm mortars.
81, isn't it? I think. Yeah, 81? I'm not really mate. Weapons.
I forget all the dimensions again. People will comment, wouldn't they? And they'll love
to. They keep on. I normally get that. I say, how come you don't know what weapon that is? It's like, because I'm a civvy now, and I didn't really care when I was in. I just got told to fire it,
Mate. I mean, is it? Yeah, you've got
81mm. I think.
Yeah, you've got mortars coming down. You've got 105. You may have A10 tank buster doing a strafing run. You may have fast air. You may have 500 pounders, 1,000-pound bombs dropping around, all being brought in by JTAC. It's chaos. It is absolute chaos.
From the silence of a patrol, within seconds, it's instantly rammed up. Within minutes, it's went crazy. And
you know what? This whole thing of you lose time dilation in a patrol. I mean, it's like it's like 3 or 4, 5, 6 hours goes by in what you think is 20 minutes.
It's crazy, yeah.
It's crazy. It's absolutely nuts.
I mean, morphed through that time.
Yeah, we got in that contact probably somewhere mid-afternoon, and by the time we got back into that FOB, 1 kilometre away, we've managed to manoeuvre all the way back, run out of ammunition. Apache gunship is just moving back with us in the air, giving us fire support. I mean, I don't know what they see. It must be like a computer game up there, but all they've got is thermal imagery, and it must be like, I don't know, like you're playing PlayStation. I've got no idea, mate.
Probably. Yeah, I mean, good bits of kit, aren't there?
Yeah, I mean, the amount of contacts I was in on Herrick 7, where Apache gunship saved us, got us out of it. I mean, godsend. But you're manoeuvring back through that. I remember when by the time we actually got back into the FOB, it was dark. It was dark. So we'd gone from 2 p.m. through until about 7 p.m. So it was probably 5 hours we lost. It didn't seem like a fight.
That's where the fitness comes through, right?
Oh, mate, when you're, I mean, we were going through, it's not like you can carrying ammunition because you run out. We were going through those irrigation ditches. I mean, they were up to here in water now.
Yeah.
And I remember when we got back into the FOB, the first things my sergeant made us do was, right, pretty much get naked. Get naked now. Everyone had to go around, check each other because your adrenaline is through the roof.
You don't know if anyone's caught it up or anything without knowing.
Yeah, you don't know if anyone's taken a round, some shrapnel, you know.
And lads probably did, right?
Mate, no, but I don't recall anyone there in particular having a round, but we literally had to go around buddy system, had to go around each other and check each other's bodies thoroughly to make sure there wasn't a small entry wound.
Are you bombing back up again just in case there's anything comes up from that?
By the time you get back in your FOB, your Alpha Company was 1, 2, and 3 troop. 1 and 2 were the foot troop that went out. 3 troop was your heavy weapons guys, a little bit more senior, the ones that dealt with the 51, the 50 cal machine guns, all up. Mate, they're covering you there, okay? They're literally on standby there. They're on stand too. They're there with their javelin missiles, their heat-seeking javelins. They're there with their 50 cals. 105s are probably all still in position. The mortar guys are still, they're ready to do their thing. I mean, you're the guys who have just been out on the ground, and you're the guys who have basically done a kilometre extraction back through the Sangin Valley. With the casualty then is typically on a CH-47, and they're off in the sky back to Bastion. But that was one particular contact which I kind of do remember through. The things that made me remember it were in particular, like I said, the kind of interaction without being an interaction with that young Afghan lad.
So
it really stuck with
just
me.
moments in time, isn't it? You think, why have I remembered that?
Yeah, really stuck with me. Just almost a conversation with our eyes. A whole conversation was had with our eyes without actually saying a word.
It's funny when you play back certain things like that in a context of that meeting.
I remember me looking at him, and he might have read from me, because this is what I was thinking. Mate, I actually feel sorry for you today, because, mate, you ain't got a chance. You have not got a chance.
Did they know that as well?
Yeah, mate. Oh, listen, how would you feel, Ryan, if you're there with your AK-47 and you know the contact you're about to have, you're going to have Apache gunship, you're going to have a strafing run from an A-10 tank buster.
They know that as well, don't they?
Yeah, they know there's no hiding. There's no hiding.
And you guys are going to give them, I mean, even a section of Marines. You got a GPMG at least in there, sometimes two.
You're going to have a GPMG, an LMG.
I mean, I don't think people realise who haven't got like a military association how much damage 6, 7, 8 people can bring in a section of Marines or any rifle contingent. There's a lot of firepower there, isn't there? In that baseline, you're going to be getting a lot of rounds down.
Well, as the Herricks went on, I never did another combat tour with the Marines after this. My journey after this, my Afghans after this would be with the SRR. But as the Herricks went on, the Taliban began to realise this, and they changed tactics. They weren't that favourable to your traditional type of, shooting Wild West contact. It was now, do you know what? We're losing this, so we're going to resort to IEDs. And I would favour all day long being in that typical type of Wild West contact with bullets than the whole IED thing, mate. The IED thing.
Because you guys can control that scenario.
Yeah.
You're quite confident that you are controlling that scenario as well, I'd imagine. Like when you're out there, despite the chaos and everything, you guys have got it. The sergeants are competent, the corporals know what they're doing. The young Marines do exactly as they're told. It's like, this works. It might be chaos, but we're happy with how we're doing things, so to speak.
There is more of an element of control in a typical conventional contact with small arms than there is over, the IED threat. And I remember being at CTC in 2009 on my junior command course. So I've come back I've been back from Afghan for maybe 6-7 months. And I remember being in the galley canteen, getting food at lunch. And I remember the news popping up. And there was a period pretty much every day where someone was catching it up in Afghanistan, a soldier through an IED. That's, the control's gone.
It's a shit way to war fight, isn't it?
It is, but, if you're the Taliban, it's far more effective against us than it is than the small arms conventional attack is, isn't it?
Morale's happened as well, isn't it?
Oh, mate, yeah.
So Herrick 7, very kinetic, like you say. You've been in that contact. Would it have been uncommon that the next day you'd have been doing a similar thing type thing?
Yeah, similar thing. Same routine, either get out of that gate and, if you're lucky, get 400 meters away from the base, try and have some sort of impact on the local population, what very little there is there, get in a contact, or sit there with your helmet on, with your body armor on, and just hope that mortar or that SPG doesn't hit you.
Did you feel like you were achieving anything in that regard then? Like, did you personally feel?
Well, no, personally, I'm achieving something. Personally, I am. I'm having that adventure which I craved as a 22, 23-year-old guy, as a 19-year-old guy who wanted to join the Marines.
So you're ticking boxes on a personal level.
Yeah.
Did it feel so? Let's look at this. You've had the adventure. If you were to have been placed back in that situation, having done what you've done, your age right now, in that exact same situation, would you, with all of the personal things out of this, would you feel as if you're achieving anything? I don't want to say politically, but politically, you were there for
or strategically,
a reason.
Yeah. Are you achieving anything politically, strategically, tactically? Absolutely not. And you know what?
Really?
I say that with reflection to obviously what came perhaps maybe a dozen years down the line of the whole withdrawal from Afghanistan. Obviously, everyone knows about that, don't they? It's a farce. So if that was just that withdrawal from Afghanistan was just a representation in my eyes of what I experienced most days as a Marine there. I mean, from a tactical, strategic point of view, what did we achieve? Nothing. We lost lives. Families were broken.
How many lads caught it up from Alpha Company specifically? Do you remember?
I can't remember. I specifically remember one corporal catching it up. He got hit by a shaped charge. I mean, shaped charges. I don't know if you know about shaped charges mines. Very, very acute, very direct. I mean, you can be in a vehicle, passenger in the front, driver, someone sat behind, sat behind. 3 people will be left totally alone. 1 person will be, take the full brunt of that.
Wow.
And then, obviously, a little bit further down the line, I attended the funeral of George Sparks, who was one of the lads who passed out from 924 Troop Command on the front line. I remember the lad I spoke about.
His funeral.
Yeah, remember the lad I spoke about. Won the Commando Medal. That lad I said had the heart of a lion, soft body, soft voice. We thought he was going to fail every single physical test. He pulled through, ended up getting a Commando Medal because every lad was just in awe of his sheer determination and his heart. He became a sniper, and I think he took a hit from an RPG, and that when he was 18, and it was his first tour of Afghan, he didn't come back. I actually spoke to his father, and he was literally about to just come back for his R&R at Christmas. You imagine families all at home. waiting for their boy to get back for Christmas. And then they get the knock on the door. Yeah, he's not coming back. I mean, yeah. I mean, there's more I can talk about on that. I mean, yeah, it's but that things like that show you things like that when you get to my stage in life and you've gone through what I've gone through with regards to the Marines and the military and UKSF, the whole war machine. Stories like that show you just how pointless war is. Okay, I mean it's a weird one, isn't it? It's probably the most consistent and the most professional thing that man has done since the dawn of time. out of everything man has ever done,
it's almost inert in our nature.
Yeah,
but you've said something that a lot of almost all individuals who've experienced true horrors of war say the same thing. It's so pointless, yet we're also professional, proficient, and developed at it. We've never developed anything that I can think of off the top of my head so pointless to such a professional standard. Actually,
I know, and
get asked, do you know what I mean?
The questions I get asked on my social media a hell of a lot by a lot of people. Would you do it all again after what you've told us about all these experiences? Would you do it all again? And you sit there and you go, I'll do it all again in a flash.
Strange, isn't it?
It's a strange paradox.
I mean, I do believe, and it's just my opinion, I do believe, like, we'll just call it war fighting, but there's something in human nature to conflict with each other, with groups, and you see it on the playground. I mean, the most violent of us all on a statistical level, where all assaults take place statistically, is kids, like less than 5-6 years old. Yep. They're assaulting each other verbally and physically all the time throughout the day. They just get away with it because the kids. But it's in us, isn't it? It is in us. I mean, you can look no further than a chimpanzee patrol to learn to learn where some of our basic tactics came from, and people laugh. That's the truth, isn't it?
Yeah. It's the way of the world, isn't it?
You know, you want to learn how to do an ambush. Jen, watch how chimpanzees do it, because that's where we got our PAM from, I think. Have you seen that, actually? I know that's definitely off topic.
No, mate, I have. I mean, they're like a well organized fighting force, aren't they? I mean,
they call them a troop, don't they? I think.
Yeah. But so I mean, Herrick 7, incredibly kinetic. I mean, if you're looking at it from the point of view of you've joined the military, why have you joined the military? I mean, the way I describe it, a way to describe it, although I've said it's pointless, and although I've said it's horrific, and although I said lives were lost and families were broken, etc. I also say in the same breath, it was a golden age of the military for me. Look at me personally. I've joined in 2006. I've gone to CTCRM. I've excelled in that. I'm out in Afghan 1 week after training, putting my skills into practice. I've come back. I'm straight out in Afghan doing pre-deployment training. I'm out in Afghan again. I never did a Norway or a jungle. I never did a training exercise. All I knew was war fighting. And if you're going to join the military, it's the gold standard. It's the golden path.
I agree.
It was the golden path. But again,
you were sold something, and you did it there and then. No, there's no frills attached. Like, you joined up to do something and you did it.
Yep.
Yeah. So this has actually made me think. On a personal level, you tick boxes, and I think that's what drives war in general, from the bottom man to the very top, albeit your personal and your meaning behind it on a personal level might be a little bit, and I'm not saying you, but could be a little bit more naive as a young lad, adventurous, naive in nature, so to speak.
Mate,
young lad.
I would describe it as self-indulgent, self-satisfying. This wasn't about Queen and Country.
Yeah.
This wasn't about defending my homeland. This was about, I would say it as it is. This was about pure adventure and self-gratification and excitement. That's what it was.
So do you think, having said that and understanding how pointless it is, but still satisfying on a personal level?
Yep.
What's different between you as a Marine and hypothetically a politician at the top doing the exact same thing for the same reasons? Because if you think about it, I don't think...
It's a big topic, isn't it? I mean...
It is a massive topic. Probably is a one for a separate podcast, to be fair. But I'm just trying to think about the nature of war.
I'll tell you what, Ryan. Can I tell you the immediate answer that comes to my head in that? What's the difference between me doing it and a politician doing it? I'm not doing it for money. I'm doing it for 17 grand a year. I'm not getting no backhander. I mean, this is where you start to ruffle feathers and watch what you say. I'm not getting no backhander from no weapons company. I'm doing this for 17 grand a year.
And I think I'll leave you with the last word. I think that's 17 G's, baby.
Yeah.